Yo, what is up, guys? I'm bringing you a brand new video, and this time we're following up on one of my last videos where I talk about loot being generated upon killing a mob instead of being generated upon looting a loot pile. And I wanted to go through and do a second test because there were some people that really didn't think that my last test sort of proved anything, I guess. They thought that maybe trash loot was generated upon killing, but maybe rare drops were generated upon looting the mob. There's a whole bunch of theories as to the way that the game could be coded. It honestly sounds kind of crazy that they would ever code the game that way, but there's a lot of crazy stuff in BDO, and so I wanted to sort of debunk any of the doubt that some people might have. And the way that we're going to do this is through a conceptual exercise, so you're going to have to open your minds and really think about this from a critical standpoint. And the way that we're going to do this test here is we're at a very low-level mob zone here, and we're on a high-level character. And when that is the case, when you kill mobs, it is not a guarantee that you're going to get any sort of loot beam drops at all. But, however, you can get loot beams. It's just a rare chance. So you have to kill enough mobs until finally you can see this goblin dropped a loot beam. The mere presence of this loot beam alone should prove to you that loot is generated upon kill. And this is where the conceptual idea comes in, okay? So think about this. If loot was calculated upon looting a loot beam, every single one of these mobs should have had a loot beam. Because there would need to be a loot beam there for that calculation to occur. My pet would have to run to that loot beam, determine, okay, there's no loot there, and then run back with nothing. However, because there's no loot beams at all, that would suggest that the loot has already been calculated when the mob died. The mob died and it knows it didn't drop any loot, so therefore it just omits the idea that there's a loot beam. It just doesn't put out a loot beam. And it only puts out a loot beam when there's actual loot to be had. So that should be enough proof to say that loot is generated upon kill. Because if it was generated upon looting the pile, every one of these mobs would have had to drop a loot beam for me to go and then do that roll to see what I got. But that's not the way that it worked. All the mobs died, and all the mobs didn't drop anything. And it knows that instantly. I don't need to do a second calculation to run to this mob and check it, because the game already did that calculation. It already knew when the mob died that it didn't drop anything, so it just forgets about the loot beam altogether. And when I actually get a piece of loot, only then will it drop a loot beam, because it, once again, is doing that calculation upon killing the mob. So hopefully that is going to clear up some things. I would be interested to see what maybe your guys' rebuttal is if you guys still think that loot is generated upon looting a beam. It just simply can't be with this test. And that's pretty much it. The reason that I wanted to make this is I saw a Reddit thread as well earlier this morning that was talking about a GM ticket where the GM said loot is generated upon killing the mob. And even though that supports my theory and that supports what I think and, supports the tests that we've done, you guys cannot trust ticketing system for those types of questions. The ticketing system is ran by people that are hired to do a job. They're likely not passionate BDO players. And even if they were, like the people that are watching this video or myself, we still don't know whether loot is generated upon kill or upon pickup until we did these tests. And so you can't expect somebody that runs a support ticket to know the answer to this. They're not a developer. They don't have access to the back end of the game. And I highly doubt that a ticketing agent is going to go through and say, I need to answer this ticket. I'm going to go directly to Korea and I'm going to talk to the developer that coded the loot drop system, and he's going to go in the back end and determine how this is working. That's a far-fetched idea. So you cannot trust the support when it comes to those types of questions. You can't even trust the support for very basic questions. Like, there's a lot of theory that we're getting full pen boss gear after this season plus, as long as you have full pen Tuvala. That is not going to be the case. I can say that right now. That was just a misunderstood ticket, and they don't know what they're talking about, or they're talking about something else, because there's no chance that that's about to happen. You're gonna get one piece of pen boss gear, and that's going to be it from the season. I think maybe you can perhaps get a full set of Tet gear that can be enhanced to pen, and maybe that's where the miscommunication came in. But the point is that time and time again, I've seen a bunch of tickets that are supposed to quote unquote prove something, and they just don't. So that's really all I wanted to say in regards to that. Please stop using tickets as proof of things that are way too high level or way too nitty gritty and, you know, down in the details for these guys to really give you a clear answer on, because they're just not qualified to do it. That's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys have any more questions about this or any rebuttals, I'd like to see them in the comments. Other than that, have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.